Next, we have Lumna from the Palestinian Feminist Collective.
Good evening, y'all. I am really honored to be here with you all today in grief, in righteous rage, as we honor the life of Sonya Massey and the thousands of Black martyrs who have been killed at the hands of racist state police here in this country. Most of you know that I'm speaking to you today in the midst of the most tragic chapter in my people's history. Since October, 186,000 Palestinians have been slaughtered. And that slaughter only fuels mine and my community's passion to fight the genocidal regime that is governing land and life in my homeland. But to do it successfully means that we have to fight its genocidal sponsors. And since the very beginning, we have known that this state has been a genocidal state. Shame. At the start of the genocide in October, like many Palestinians, we felt rather alienated. This feeling that people couldn't understand what we were going through. Almost every Palestinian I know, including myself, knows someone who has been displaced or killed or imprisoned in our homeland. And almost all of us have experience where our ancestors have been killed, displaced, or imprisoned. And that intimacy of grief, having so many friends and family members that you forget to count, having so many ancestors in one bloodline, was something that I knew one community in particular could understand in this country, which is the Black community. And it was not a coincidence that it was Black America that was the first to stand with us in October. It is not a coincidence that it was Black America that has stood with us since decades ago, even when it invited repression upon their own liberation movement, even when it took a toll and a cost on their movement. Palestinians have always known that. And we pledge and devote ourselves to fighting against white supremacist, racist state violence in this country as well. The intimacy of the grief that I'm talking about is illuminated in so many of the stories and the connections between them, which some of our sisters talked about earlier. It's not a coincidence that George Floyd's girlfriend was the teacher of Daunte Wright. It's not a coincidence that Iberia Hampton, the mother of Fred Hampton, was the babysitter of Emmett Till. That is not a coincidence. For generations, Black life has been rendered disposable in this country, from racial chattel slavery to the Jim and Jane Crow era, to the mass incarceration prison industrial complex and policing. And when we think about that turning point in the 1960s, that late 1960s, Black Power movement, anti-Vietnam War movement, Palestinian liberation movement that spanned the world, it's not a coincidence that the state reform their policies at the domestic and foreign policy level to crush resistance movements across the globe. So by 1969, when the Black Power movement had taken a position against the Vietnam War, against the Zionist occupation in Palestine, and continued to fervently agitate against the racist state here in this country, 26 Black Panther leaders were assassinated in 1 year. Shame. The last decade has told us more clearly that the fight for racial liberation, the fight for anti-imperialist liberation, the fight against Zionism is urgent, not because it was never complete, but because land and life is still quite literally on the line. It is not okay that every 72 hours, another Black person in this country is killed. It is not okay that this country manufactured the crime epidemic, that they expanded prisons and police at a time where statistically crime was on the decline, and then they went to go hunt Black and brown life to incarcerate them. That is not okay. We see through those lies. We see that this is systemically a part of the structure of white supremacist state violence. White supremacy is not discrimination between two people. It stems from the very top, from the ruling class and their corporate interests, and it's connected to their imperialist policies abroad that renders Palestinian life and Latino life and African life disposable. I want to close off by saying it's not just the structures of pain and subjugation and oppression that we share with you. It is also a long history of solidarity. And there's so much that has been said about how Black movements have stood with Palestinians, but Palestinians, we have stood with you all since the very beginning as well. We want you to know that we will affirm that over and over and over again. I want to read a short poem. This was a poem written by Samih al-Qasim, a Palestinian writer. It's called Enemy of the Sun. And it was found in the prison cell of the late martyr George Jackson, who was assassinated in 1971 in the San Quentin prison. I may, if you wish, lose my livelihood. I may sell my shirt and bed. I may work as a stone cutter, a street sweeper, a porter. I may clean your stores or rummage your garbage for food. I may lie down hungry, O enemy of the sun, but I shall not compromise, and to the last pulse in my veins I shall resist. You may take the last strip of my land, feed my youth to the prison cells. You may plunder my heritage. You may burn my books, my poems, or feed my flesh to the dogs. You may spread a web of terror on the roofs of my village, O enemy of the sun. But I shall not compromise, and to the last pulse in my veins, I shall resist. You may put out the light in my eyes. You may deprive me of my mother's kisses. You may curse my father, my people. You may distort my history. You may deprive my children of a smile and of life's necessities. You may fool my friends with a borrowed face. You may build walls of hatred around me. You may glue my eyes to humiliations, O enemy of the sun. But I shall not compromise, and to that last pulse in my veins, I shall resist, O enemy of the sun. The decorations are raised at the port, the ejaculations fill the air, a glow in the hearts and in the horizon, a sail in scene, challenging the wind and the depths. In the Ulysses, returning home from the sea of loss. It is the return of the son of my exiled loved ones, and for her sake and his, I swear, I shall not compromise. And to the last pulse in my veins, I shall resist, resist, and resist. And finally, I want to say, it's not just that Palestinians stand with the Black movement for liberation in this country. It's that we are indebted to you for consistently telling us that the fight and resistance and the perseverance to continue on generation after generation stems from our very own location here. And we thank you.